So what was my first day as a detective like? Hey guys, what is going on? Thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful Saturday. A lot of people have asked me what was the first day of being a detective or an investigator like. So I figured I would share it with you. So basically the first day of being a detective is kind of the orientation stuff, right? So you come to work, you turn in your patrol car, and then they give you usually an unmarked car. And that could be a Ford Fusion, it could be a Dodge Charger, just whatever that particular department uses. There's no like set standard for detectives to be driving around in. So once you turn in your car, first you have to kind of swap all your stuff out. I had boxes of stuff that was in my patrol car, everything from like traffic control, like wands, to crime scene tape, to accordion folders with documents in them. And I had to take all of that out and transfer it to my other car and then hand in my keys. Luckily for me, I got an unmarked car. It doesn't have any markings on it at all. I actually took the government plate off of it and I just put a normal plate on. So usually after that, they kind of assign you like a desk, kind of like an area where you're gonna be working at. They give you a computer, they give you all sorts of things that you're gonna need for CID. And that could be like a crime scene checklist. It could be a death scene checklist. You know, they're two totally separate things. They could also give you, a booklet of like crime scene etiquette and techniques and fingerprinting and just a little bit more in-depth stuff than what you've usually done. They usually don't teach really advanced forensic techniques at the department itself. We usually have to go out of town or to another department that might be putting on one of those classes. And usually these classes are about 40 hours. It just depends on the course. There's some courses that are months, but those are pretty rare. Most of your Georgia law enforcement classes are going to be a week long, and they take place at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center in Forsyth. And the first day was like super relaxed, like nobody was in a rush to do anything. Everybody was just like real laid back and everything, and I was like, I can get used to this. This is awesome. Little did I know. So we get most of the orientation stuff out of the way, and so I get my desk set up, like I'm trying to get all my little like pins and holders, and I want everything in a certain spot. I'm trying to keep my area clean. I want to stay organized, more so than I was on patrol. Everything was kind of just thrown into my trunk in patrol. So if I needed paperwork, I had to like dig for it. Horribly organized person. So I get my desk set up and I'm going over some things with the captain. The captain is telling me, what she expects in a case file. You have like your cover sheet and your synopsis, and there's just certain things that have to go in order in this case file. And then once you complete the case file, that's when you turn it in. And if there's any corrections that need to be made, or there's more documentation that maybe you forgot in there that she picks up on, she will kick it back to you. So we get done with the first day and I go home and I film a YouTube video. I hit the road, I go film, I come back home and I get on my laptop and I'm starting to edit. And by this time, I'm maybe 10 minutes into editing, and usually it takes me about an hour, maybe an hour and a half per video. And I'm like 10 minutes into it, so I'm just, kind of getting started. And I get a phone call. It's about 6:30 in the evening. Our old schedule used to be from 8:30 to 4:30. So I'd been home for a couple of hours. Now it's 7 to 5. But I only work 4 days a week, which is really nice. So the captain calls me. So I take out my earbuds, I answer the phone. I said, "Hey, Captain." She says, "Hey." There's like this awkward silence. She's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Just editing a YouTube video." She's like, "Oh, well, that's cool. Are you busy?" I was like, "No, ma'am." She's like, "Good, because we have a murder-suicide I need you to come to." I'm like, what? It's like I had never heard those two words put together. A murder and a suicide? What? So of course I haul ass to the bedroom. I throw on all my clothes again. I run out the door and I'm just gone, ass and elbows down the road. So basically the way this case wound up, I didn't work it all the way through. Like I said, this was my very first day. And with our CID, you're in training for at least 6 weeks before you're on your own. You start getting your own case files. We've been so short-handed that our new people back there are getting case files, and they're really not supposed to. What was sad about this case, it started as a guy that was stalking this girl. That's how every great ID channel series starts, right? I will just say he was very rich, but with very dirty money. Somehow he lured her to his business and then killed her and then shot himself. And what was super sad about this call was she looked familiar. they had been there for a few days. So it was kind of hard to tell, especially with him. Anyway, I'm not going to go into the details. So as I'm sure you can imagine, the place smelled fantastic because they had been there for about 3 days. But what was really sad was I remember her, and I went to a call at her apartment maybe a month before that when I was still on patrol. I went to a call at her house, and she was deathly afraid of this guy. It wasn't my call. It was another officer's call. I show up, and this is where being a cop kind of sucks, because I could tell that this woman was scared to death, scared of this guy. You can tell the difference between people that just play scared and people that are legitimately scared for their life. There's a huge difference, and that's just something you kind of pick up on over time. The sucky part about being a cop is, we can't sit there and watch somebody 24 hours a day. We can't, there's the witness protection program, that's all federal stuff. We can't physically sit there and guard somebody 24 hours a day just because they're scared. That's just, we don't have the manpower for that. And that sucks because, of course, you want to protect everybody. But with budget and manpower and everything else, it's just not feasible. It's not a feasible reality to be able to protect everybody at the same time. You see a lot of people on YouTube, they're like, when the cops are minutes away, my pistol's right here. You're right. You're absolutely right. I suggest everybody should have a gun. That's just me. That's my own opinion. I know other groups don't agree with that. That's just me. But I think if everybody owned a gun, it would stop a lot of armed robberies. It would stop a lot of burglaries. There's a lot of things that would be stopped. But either way, this girl was so scared. To see her a month later, I had no idea who she was until I actually got there. And then I thought she looked familiar, and then somebody was able to get her ID and they showed it to me. And I was like, oh my God. So I grabbed the laptop and I looked her up, and sure enough, there's her name in a call log from a month before at her apartment. It was the same girl. And that was really sad. It was very sad. I don't know the nitty gritty details of it. Like I said, I wasn't the case investigator, or case agent. So I didn't go through their phones and stuff. I didn't get that detailed into it. My job was basically to watch them process the crime scene and try to learn, how the crime scene technicians do what they do. They use like laser measuring and stuff. They have to measure like the head, where the feet are in correlation to the walls. It's all math, and that's just so they can like plot it out later. And a lot of times they'll draw it out on a diagram, and when you look at the diagram, you might see something that you missed while you were on the crime scene. So that's why it's so important to get accurate measurements and lots of pictures. That was my first day as a detective. I worked for 8 hours, from 8:30 to 4:30, went home for 2, and then I was out for another 8.5. I didn't end up getting home until, I don't remember, it was like 5 in the morning. I had no idea. I've been in CID now for almost a year, and this has been the busiest, most time away from home I have ever spent in probably my entire law enforcement career before this. Like, the whole 9 years behind me does not compare to this 1 year in CID. It's stressful. You're never home. You don't have a family life. There's no time for anything. Another weird thing about being a detective, and it might not be like this in every city, but you do have to kind of get hands-on with the dead. So if there is a body that is rotten, or even if it's fresh, whatever, you might have to help the coroner lift them up by their cold wrist and drop them like a sack of potatoes in a body bag. And it's very awkward. If you've never been around death, to be around it and have to touch it is very strange. It's very surreal. I'm not gonna lie, it's still like, it makes me uneasy, even though I've been around death for 10 years now. Being alone with a rotten body in a room, especially when it's dark in there, it's like, been watching too much Walking Dead. So anyway, guys, that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section below, and I will try to answer them accordingly. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday or Sunday whenever this video comes out, and I will see you guys very, very soon.